everyone. Welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And today we are going to be going over Today we are going to be going over Onyx Storm chapters 43 through 48. And it's a good one. This is going to be a good episode, right, Ellie?
Oh my gosh, yeah, right.
We are
my husband and I do that to each other where we say, right, Grant? Right, Ellie? Like kids. So yeah,
nice.
Right, Melissa.
Thank you. Back to you. Awesome. So if you don't already, go ahead, follow us on Instagram, like, subscribe on YouTube. Everything is at L.A.M.E Book Club Pod. We have a website. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but we actually have a review of the week. I'm super excited to read it. This comes from 1998 Cowgirl. Love it. It says, "This podcast is keeping me from being institutionalized." 5 stars. I love this podcast. It's basically my emotional support entertainment while I wait for my friends to finally finish Onyx Storm so I can scream about it with them. And if that's not Ellie with me right now, I don't know what it is.
That's not me. For once in our entire lives, I have finished a book before Melissa because life has just been busy for her. I get it.
Yeah.
If anyone gets it, I get it because I'm always the one in that position. But for once, I finish it and I am waiting. I can only wait and do these episodes because that's how far she reads. So once we get into this is you're seeing it live. This is us talking about the book to each other.
I actually cannot believe that this is my reality. Not only, forget the fact that Ellie finished a book before me. That is asinine. It's the fact that I am reading the chapters as they go. I've only ever been a handful of chapters ahead every episode that we've done. 6 months ago, if you had told me this would have been my life, I would have laughed. I would have hit you probably. I don't know.
Laughed in your face.
Literally. Okay, but there's no way.
This is so good because Melissa, let's just be frank. Melissa is so much more animated than me and golden with her reaction. So if she was reading these things, dropping the theories to me and all this, I feel like I'd be like, wow, that's so cool. I'd be very excited inside, but outwardly that's me at 100. Where Melissa is just eyes bulging out of her head, gasping. I love it. Let's talk merch. We have a tote bag and we have a sticker, and you can buy both of those on our website, lamebookclubpod.com. And if you're part of our Patreon, you will get 15% off. And if you're not part of our Patreon, it might be time to join. If you like our episodes, we go through more books, believe it or not. We read even more than this, and we talk about it, and we are having fun. We're in Finale, which is the 3rd book of the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber, and it's a blast. So head on over if you're interested in more content.
Awesome. Well, before we jump in, just a quick spoiler warning. We will be talking all things Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, but only up through chapter 48 in Onyx Storm. So if you are like me and you have not read farther or much farther than that, you are safe. This is a safe space. But if you have, that's fine. We just will not be going past chapter 48 in this episode. So you have been warned.
Yes. All right. Let's get rolling. Some follow-ups from last week, and then we have a pre-game situation. So, number one, first thing we need to address, a public apology to the audience, because I told Melissa, something else Rebecca Yarrow said is Violet's Signet, the lightning wielding, it's only at 10% of what we've seen. Everybody came at me. I get it. It was wrong. It's the second Signet that we will only have seen 10% of when we get there. Second topic of business, page 256. I don't know if we all remember, but last week I talked about the possibility of that sun protection rune being similar to the one on the dagger, but I couldn't find where that was cited in the book. Thank you to Akia Cheryl. She has reached out and told me it is page 256, and it is where Violet thinks the rune on the sun protection disc that Mira gave her looks so similar to the one on the dagger that Xaden gave her that she cannot tell the difference. So we are confirmed, which makes that theory to me an absolute truth. So those are the 2 follow-ups from last episode. Now, I want to get into something. This past week, I saw somebody say that they hated Onyx Storm for this one reason. Violet was not asking enough questions in the right moments. And I can absolutely see why that would drive somebody crazy. So I want to name this little segment, Questions Violet Needed to Be Asking Thus Far in our deep dives.
All right.
Okay, number 1. Let's just imagine that she shuts the door on Taryn's bond for a second. Why are we not asking Brennan what is up with Naolin? in book 1, 2, or 3 now. Why is she not following up with her brother? Hey, you were close with him. What actually happened? Did he really die?
That's so fair. We've all been asking this. Why isn't Violet?
Yeah.
That's wow.
Question 2.
That's so true.
Question 2. At the Isle of Umbriel, why is she not asking all of the priestesses there? Priestesses?
Literary analysis, ladies and gentlemen.
Why their hair color is silver? Why is she not asking?
Honestly, that is the biggest question. Why? And moreover, not just her, why didn't any of them ask? Because it's been like multiple times it's been pointed out that her hair is like so noticeable because it's very different from everyone else. Then lo and behold, we go somewhere else, like a new isle, different from the continent that they all grew up on, and there's 20, I'm just assuming there were 20 ish of them all that look exactly like her hair-wise, and not one person, not even Xaden, is like, what? Hey, what's going on here?
Hey, what gives? Exactly. I mean, if I was alone on this island of hair color my entire life and always wondering, you know, every time I chop it, it even grows silver on the ends. There's something going on here and nobody else has this. All of a sudden I see it. Hold the phone. Hang on. I'm going to ask a couple questions before we start this battle. Or maybe even after. I know they were on a time crunch, but there's enough time.
There's enough time for her to even just monologue in her thoughts. Like, I wonder why. Like, she didn't, outside of seeing them, like, as soon as they started fighting, it was like, that didn't even happen. Like, she didn't even think to herself, I wonder, let's take a step back here. That hair seems familiar. Like, it was like not even mentioned again as soon as the fight was started.
I know. And then also on that note, maybe one of these. What did you mean I was partially dedicated? What do you mean I was touched by the gods? All of that never came out of her mouth. And then last but not least, hey Xaden, why are you answering my thoughts? How are you reading my mind? Like, Xaden, I didn't say that out loud, moves on. That's bananas to me.
Hey Xaden, why are we finishing each other's sandwiches? What is happening? There's our Disney reference for everyone.
There you go. All right. If you guys can think of more questions that Violet should be asking throughout all of this, drop them in the comments. Otherwise, let us continue with our deep dive. We are in chapter 43, and I'm just going to preface today might be just slightly longer, so hold on to your butts. Violet gives Riddick the short of it with Xaden's sitch. If we remember, Riddick had just left seeing Xaden being Venin and was like, you're going to tell me everything. So that's where he left off last week.
We're going to talk.
Yeah.
Honestly, I loved the backbone he grew, though. That was just like, okay, let me take that back. I don't want to say backbone he grew. I love this side of Riddick that we got. I liked that it was, because he's always been the happy-go-lucky, fun, comedic relief, pretty much thus far. We've gotten to see a little bit more of him throughout this book, and like his powers are growing, cool, and like he's whatever. But he's always still just been the funny one. And I like this moment where he was deadly serious, and like there was not 1 ounce of him that was even a little bit comedic, and it was really cool to get that side of him and to see that, like, we know he's a good fighter and we know he can ride and wield and everything, but I feel like this is the Riddick that's in battle, and we get to really see like, he is a force to be reckoned with. He's not just a funny. Thanks.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And he demands answers, and now he's going to get them.
Absolutely.
So she basically gives him the short answer of this is what's going on with Xaden. Then she begs him to keep it on the DL as Mira walks up. Riddick agrees by not blabbing straight away to Mira, and instead lets Mira know that the Irids rejected them and Indarna. The squad plans their sad trip home, fully expecting their court-martials. Xaden notes here that only the larger dragons can fly 2 days straight, and that would include Sigale, Tairn, and possibly Malvik. And so I want to talk about Malvik for a second because I have a small theory that is churning in my mind.
Let's talk.
So we know only of 2 blue dragons so far, and to my knowledge, per the books, these are the only current bonded blue dragons. Do you know any different than that?
I want to say that there's there's one more, but I'm pretty sure I'm just thinking of the fact of Oryx, but it's just because we didn't know his name until a couple chapters ago. The dragons, I mean.
Yeah.
But I remember I'm trying to think, and I'm pretty sure it was when in the beginning of this series when we were listing out like the current characters, their signets, their dragons, like all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure it was Oryx, but I also feel like there's maybe possibly one more blue dragon, but I could not tell you whose it is.
I couldn't either. So if you guys remember, let us know. But so far, we know Sigale and we know Mulvik. Sigale's obviously bonded to Xaden. Mulvik is to Arik. It's interesting, though, to me that Sigale is bonded to Xaden, who is the heir turned Duke of Tyrrendor, and Mulvik is bonded to Arik, Prince of Navarre. Do we think that blue dragons like blue blood?
do we think that blue dragons are Yeppity? Are they crown chasers? Are they power hungry little dragons?
They very well could be.
I
I'm
like
very
it.
curious, though, you know?
Yeah.
Because so far, they've only chosen royalty.
Yeah.
So, that's something to think about.
And actually, we do know, this isn't a different blue dragon, but we know Sigale was bonded to Xaden's grandpa. And
right, exactly. And he's also royalty
it had
of
to
some
have been
sort.
his father's line, because we know the mom is from the Isles. And so it could not have been hers. And so, which exactly to your point, royalty.
Interesting. Anyways, so Riddick is ready for the full explanation now. They hike 5 miles. To me, I feel like 2 or 3 would be sufficient. So 5 is just...
That's excessive. But
imagine
someone being like,
I
we
want
have to take into account the power of dragons, their hearing, all of that stuff.
That's true. So, they walk 5 miles and enter the Cone of Silence, aka the sound shield rune that Riddick carries.
AKA, get smart when they all have their individual cones of silence but then can't hear anyone.
That movie slaps. I watch that after.
Movie.
Okay, Riddick is rightfully hurt, and Violet justifies her actions, saying it wasn't my secret to tell. And Riddick does not let her off the hook with that and holds her accountable, 1, for her safety, but 2, just to be like, but you lied and we don't lie to each other. So I liked that. I liked that he stood firm and was like, you know what, you're so right, it wasn't your secret, but instead was like, no, that's important information to be sharing with people that can back you and keep you safe. So
I'm throwing this out there. What do you think, Ellie? Do you think that is something that she should have shared, or do you think that she was right in saying that wasn't her secret? I have thoughts if you want me to go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here's my thing. I hear where she's coming from because it wasn't her secret, but I really feel like she just used that as a cop-out, as a reason not to tell, because she doesn't, for his safety, yes, she doesn't want people to know. But to me, at the end of the day, that just says that she doesn't trust them as much as she thinks she does, because if she if she really wanted help, she could have used an extra 3 people searching for a cure, asking questions, trying to figure it out. And yes, on one hand, that would be more exposure and more people would know what's going on to him. But if she trusted them to not say anything, and I just think she used the fact that it wasn't her that was Venom as a really convenient excuse to be like, oh, I just couldn't tell you because it wasn't my thing. I just think she didn't want to tell them, and she just used that as an excuse.
100% endorse that thinking. That's my thought too. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, that is a great point. So something to note here in lieu of Riddick just not letting her off the hook. There's a line where Riddick says, Xaden's bonded to one of the most vicious dragons. That's awesome. Kind of sarcastically. And Violet says, he doesn't control Sigale. She barely speaks to him. Do you have theories on this? Because this seemed very pointed. We know that they're kind of off, Sigale and Xaden, obviously, because of the Venom situation. But to me, this seemed even more pointed of Sigale is not speaking to him. Sigale is not, doesn't really want much to do with him outside of they're in battle together.
Well, no, I kind of, honestly, I took it as, essentially face value. And watch, this is going to be something that comes back, and I'm like, oh man, I should have seen it coming. She even asked, she set me up to know, and I still was like, no. But I just I really think it was because exactly like the comment Riddick made. It's like, great, like now we have someone who's Venom, who's bonded to one of the most vicious dragons, and I took her saying like no, she's hardly even speaking to him, as her being like, no, you don't have to worry about her because she's just as pissed, if not more pissed than everyone else is that he's Venom. It's not gonna come back and bite us. That's kind of how
this is a question we've had since Iron Flame, and I don't know if we're going to get more answers throughout this book, but we know that Venom can essentially control their dragons at some point, example being Jack and Bade. But when does this happen? Yeah. And does the dragon have to be willing for this to happen? And the very next line in this book is, she's kept this from the Empyrean. Like, Sigil's kept this secret from the Empyrean. So why? Why is she toying with the idea of going down with him?
As far as I'm aware, if I remember correctly, Bade didn't tell the Empyrean either. So I do think that is something obviously they have a choice in. But going off of your statement that potentially they have to be willing before a Venom could control them, assuming that's true, I would go so far as to say I feel like Bade allowed it. I don't think Bade was as strong mentally as Sigil is. And I'm just curious to see how that's going to end up. Like, again, we're assuming that that's truth in this scenario. Yeah. But it's interesting to me to see like what is going to happen to their bond if Xaden doesn't end up getting cured.
I know. I'm just curious if like it's starting, like the more he takes, if it's starting to like take over her too, and that's why she's trying to keep more of a distance and like not want. I don't know. I'm just so curious what's going on internally with Sigil. But back to the main thing, Riddick is concerned that Xaden has so many friends in his corner, but Violet doesn't have anyone that isn't partial to Xaden. So he makes her draw a line where she'll walk away from Xaden, and it is decided that it will only be if Xaden hurts her. So Riddick and Violet head back to the squad, and Riddick tells Xaden he'll keep his secret for the time being, but Violet needs to tell Rhee and Sawyer and Jacinia. And let the record show right exactly here is where I stopped trusting Jacinia.
Right exactly here? Why?
For no other reason than vibes. Let me tell you, Rebecca says never trust a scribe. And
that's so true.
The big scribes in this story, Jacinia and Asher. I don't think Asher's the one we shouldn't trust, so Jacinia's top of my list.
Well, and I mean, I would go so far as to say another big scribe in the story is Markham, and we know for dang sure that we cannot trust him. So
that's so true. I just feel like someone close to them is going to betray them to keep the story juicy. And if everything we're reading is transcribed by Jacinia and now we realize we can't trust her, it just feels like true. That really something's there. And also the fact that Riddick was like, you need to tell Rhee and Sawyer, and then later added and Jacinia. Like it wasn't just all one sentence. So
yeah, interesting. I let the record. Let the record show that I'm not quite there yet, but I like the thought of it.
Xaden, or Riddick also mentions that when Xaden fully turns, the easiest way to kill him will be to kill Violet because of the bonds with all of them and the dragons, and that they're going to do everything that they can to protect her. And that is some foreshadow to me.
I mean, that was beyond. There's been so much foreshadow. This entire book, everyone's been like, Xaden's gonna hurt you, and she's like, he would never. And then that's been a constant theme. And then we just talked about Riddick was finally like, you have to draw a line. What is your line? And she goes, fine, if he hurts me.
If he hurts me.
And then at the end of this, it's like the only way for him to stop is to kill you. Or like it has been foreshadowed this entire book, and this is just nailing it in the coffin. Violet's coffin, let's be honest.
12 to 15-ish days later, the squad is back on the continent, and it is a sweet reunion between Rhiannon and Violet. I love friendship. I love it. It was sweet.
I love friendship.
And Darna flies straight to the Vale, and she is still blocking everyone out, and it makes me so, so sad.
Oh, me too.
Unfortunately, who is also there to meet them is a one General Atos. Womp womp.
Atos
he is ready. I know he is ready to wheel and deal some punishments, but starts by telling Kat that she is a step closer to the throne, which is such a jerk thing to do, because Kat immediately assumes that her sister died, and then he just kind of like stands there and smug smiles. It made me
Yeah,
so
like,
mad.
I'll let you figure this one out. Ugh, what a
Yeah.
jerk.
After a long pause, he hands Violet a letter, and then Violet's like, "Is Serena dead or not?" And he's like, "No, not right now. She's alive as far as I know."
I hate him so
Like,
much.
you need to get slapped is what needs
He's
to
just a
happen.
freaking little weasel. No, he needs to get more than just slapped, but a slap wouldn't be a good starting point.
A slap to start.
Yeah.
That might need to be a sticker. A slap to start. The letter is from none other than Theophany, and it basically tells Violet that she's has the one thing that she seeks above all else, which to me
Is a
only
cure.
means a cure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Also,
catch me with a
can we-
theory on this very soon, but not today.
Can we, for 1 second, also just talk about, we know that everything, especially now, but like this entire time, anything that Violet has gotten has been intercepted and like read. And
Yeah.
I now more so than ever because of Atos Sr. and his small peen and like his just like desire for power. So are we kidding ourselves with thinking he didn't already read this, or at least have
Yeah.
someone read this?
I think actually in the book it even says like it was already open, so it was clear that it
Yeah.
had been read.
But okay, so who does he think this is?
I
Like,
know.
I want to know, like, and if he knows exactly who it is, why is he not a little bit more concerned that she's corresponding with a Venom? Like, what?
I know. Well, and that's my next question. How did the letter even get to leadership? Like, who would have delivered it from a Venom to, like, I'm sure they don't have drop boxes and POs. So, how did that
carrier
get
pigeons.
there? A
I'm
pigeon
kidding.
from a Venom. I
A
just
Venom
don't feel like a
pigeon.
bird would be like, yeah, strap that letter to me, you monster. But
Not willingly, but probably forced.
probably. I'm just wondering if
I also just want to say for the record, I'm kidding about the pigeons. I feel like everyone got
I'm
that,
not.
but I also wouldn't
No,
be
I think
surprised.
they
No,
absolutely have
pigeons?
carrier pigeons.
That not
This is
once
a
has
world
been
of-
mentioned in this story that there are carrier
They're
pigeons.
not going to send people with letter bags.
I mean,
not
they have
mailmen.
signets. I'm sure there's some kind of magic.
Mail
that
signet.
what you're what develops? What are you? I'm turning
Federal
into.
Post Office signet.
I feel a desire to mail something.
What are you turning into? Post. Oh my god.
Overnight ground delivery. Oh man, that's the best.
Never get over that.
Okay, but on a real note,
I think it's pigeons on a real note. I really do.
I need to think more about this before I decide where I land. But I can't.
Breathe.
I need to know more about what, like, I'm not saying they're going to recognize the name, but it's an ominous enough letter that it would like, if I was someone
Yeah.
in leadership and I am vetting all of her stuff because I don't trust her, this would be freaky enough for me to be like, I need to look more into this. Like, what is going on?
Leadership cares about their writers or people on their side of the war.
I know.
Like, the letter, I didn't write this, but it literally says, like, I have what you seek. Also, we saw you flying over us in this, like, general
Yeah.
area. Like, could have got you at any time, kind of. And
Exactly.
if I was someone's leader, I'd be like, do you need help? Are you
Help?
okay? Who is this?
But they're also trying to kill her, so like,
Yeah. Okay, so to end this chapter, we find out that Siniva fell to the Dark Wielders, and Queen Mariah is DED dead.
DED. That is final.
Chapter 44. Turns out keeping company with the royal prince was the move, because King Tori is so happy that Arik is back, he pardons the quest squad from any other punishments.
I loved that so much.
Yeah. It felt nice.
Also,
It was
I
such a
loved-
quick sentence, but it was nice.
I loved how that probably equal parts infuriated and relieved Halden.
I know. Halden also is just the worst. Between him and Atos, I cannot decide. No, it's Atos.
Yeah, it's
Mira,
absolutely Atos.
Mira and Garrick are sent back to the front lines. Drake is sent back to Corden. Xaden is back to being professor and Duke in the scenario meetings. And Violet and Rhiannon are now in battle brief. Business as usual. But life goes on. Except not, because freaking Takaris is now king, Saniva has fallen, and it feels really tight, like they're being squeezed in by the Venom.
Yeah.
And I was stressing at this point. I just felt like, oh my gosh, they're winning. Worst of all, and truly this was devastating to read, I did not like this, but I think that's the point. Saniva fell by 12 Venom dropping from the sky and burning the city along with 25,000 lives. 12 took out 25,000.
That's terrifying.
I know. It plays so much more into like a rider's power that Violet was taking out Venom on her own. Xaden took out 12 in the beginning of this book. Like that's
like
crazy.
17.
Yeah. So the Venom attacked because of a recent shipment of alloyed daggers, meaning someone within their ranks betrayed them by outing this information, which leads back to like, why is leadership getting these letters? How are they getting them? Why are they not doing anything about them? The ranks are infiltrated. Who of leadership is infiltrated? That's the question we need to ask.
Atos.
The class finds out. Yeah, Atos. Oh, man.
That's my bet.
I kind of actually don't think he is. I think he's just human evil. I think...
that is like a not fully, I'm not dying on that hill, and I don't have that much stake in it. I just can see both sides. I could see on one hand, he doesn't feel like he's gotten the respect and power that Lilith has gotten, so he's taken to, fine, then I'll screw you all. But at the same time, I could totally, exactly, like, he's actually not a big threat at all, but he thinks he is, and I love the idea of him having little man syndrome and like thinking he's really awesome and no one actually cares and he's not a big bad. So I see both sides, but that's that's where I want to go with it, is just I just hate him. So I'm just going to throw him under the bus.
I think actually in leadership is big bad Venom.
Is actual Venom, not like...
Yeah.
Okay, who?
No, is actually Venom. Is Melgren.
And
he's Kodak's writer, yeah. And Kodak is part of the Empyrean, which means I think there's some Venom infiltration within the dragon realm as well.
See, I like the idea of that. I'm trying to decide if I think it's Melgren or honestly even Markham. Too. Like I could see both? Because true, but it's someone who didn't otherwise have power, like because Markham's described, like he doesn't have a dragon, he doesn't have a signet. And so I could see him like wanting to take something for himself because of that. I don't know. That's the thing. I have arguments for almost everyone, like, and why I think they could be. And I haven't thought about it enough to die on a hill for any of them.
I have more to back up my thought, but it's got to come towards the end of this book. So stay tuned. The class finds out that the Venom traveled within a storm within a cloud, and Violet realizes that Theophanie's power is so much greater than she thought. So she has to be a maven. And now she's like, me, a second year versus a maven, no way. And she's panicking and I'm panicking, and that's where we're at after the class.
Okay, but are we not going to talk about how that is potentially a nod that her signet could be more than just lightning if she is also a lightning wielder? Like, yeah, we get it, she's a maven, but like she's also has essentially power of the sky too. And if we're going off the theory that Violet is her balance, then wouldn't their power have to be the same if she's the balance?
Yep, could be.
Just food for thought.
Could be. After class, the gang heads to the archives where Violet can tell them about Xaden. Prior to that, though, Jacinia gives Violet a package that she says she intercepted before Atos could open it. Seemingly nice.
I was just about to say, I bet Ellie doesn't buy it for 1 second.
Not a second. This raises the hair on my neck because my spidey senses are like, well, if you're so sneaky, what else could you have been smuggling in or out? Notes from Theophany, perhaps?
Perhaps. No chance.
The package, there's a chance. Believe you me. By book 5, you're going to be like, screw Jacinia.
Probably. Well, we'll see.
We'll see. That's on my bingo card. I'm not taking it off until we find out she's great, and then I will be removing it. I'm snip snappy. So the package is soft and labeled with a quadrant from a seamstress in Chantara. Violet says, weird. And do you ever just like, to me,
Violet says, weird.
oh,
And
yeah.
it just keeps going.
No. This is in lieu of that. Do you ever just feel like tired? Like she's saying like,
Yes.
oh, weird. And I'm just like, I'm so tired. Everything can't be this suspicious to me. I can't have theories on everything. I just want to trust. I just want to read the book and trust you, but I can't.
I just want to take everything for face value.
Yeah. Now we've got a suspicious package from a suspicious person. Everything's bad. Everyone basically begs Sawyer to try to ride again, and things are really looking up in that arena. But now it's time for Violet to tell everyone about Xaden, and so she does. Chapter 45. We're dreaming again. And at this point, I am convinced these are Xaden's dreams. Sorry, bye.
Absolutely.
Don't write me. I will hear no slander. But how is Violet in them is my question. Is it the bond? Is it part of her second signet? And so here's what's crazy, okay? Now that like Melissa and I we're all on the same page. These are Xaden's dreams, okay?
Yeah.
So let's purely
I've been on
look
that
at
page
this.
for a while.
I know. I remember you saying that. I think even in like Iron Flame, like the beginning.
I don't think it was Iron Flame. I think it was for sure in our recap. I think. Watch. I'm gonna go back and read it or listen to it, and I said the exact opposite.
Well, that's gonna be me on book 5 when I'm like, I never said Justinia was bad. No.
I remember I've loved Justinia this whole
Please
time.
Okay, here's what's crazy. Again, we're reading this only from this being Xaden's dream, okay? Violet is seeing the sage. That's right, the sage from
The
Iron
one that's
Flame.
Not dead? Question mark.
Yes, the one Xaden channeled to kill. You cannot convince me that these dreams aren't real. Not only are they Xaden's, but these dreams are real to me. I know for a fact, kind of a fact, that this is how the Venin are communicating with Xaden. So how, Melissa, is this sage alive?
So,
Jail.
Yes. Jail. How?
Jail
I
because... No, go ahead.
I want to know because that was the only way that they, if he really is dead or didn't die, then how was Xaden able to save them all? Like, because the whole reason that they, the way it ended in Iron Flame is because Xaden killed him and turned Venin in the process. So that's where I'm like, I need to know the loophole then of how they were still able to, quote unquote, win at the end of the book without him actually dying.
And here's where I say again, jail. Jail, Miss Rebecca, I don't raise people from the dead Yaros. Because now we're at Brennan, we're at Jack, we're at probably Liam, and then we're at the Sage.
No,
I
take
digress.
Liam out of that.
I
There's
will
no
not.
chance.
The fact that he came back and there's no reason yet, there's something is happening. She's just bringing everyone back. No one's dead.
There is not a snowflake's chance in hell, in my opinion, that Liam is coming back for realsies. No, not even a chance. I will give you
You know
the
what,
Sage.
though?
I will give you Brennan, but I will not give you Liam.
I just don't believe once again, I'm so tired. I just want to trust.
I think her loophole is that she didn't, assuming that the Sage is actually back, like, never actually left.
It's a
I guess
dream,
would be
so it could be not really him.
Yeah, assuming that is the case, though, I think her loophole is that she didn't actually kill them. The people who actually die, she doesn't bring back, like Liam, her dad, like the people that are dead. But Jack was on the brink of death. Brennan was on the brink of death. The Sage, but if assuming this is more than just a dream, we'll get the story of how, like, we assumed they were dead, and yes, it said they were dead, but again, it said it because of assumptions, and I think that's her loophole. But dare I say that I still don't like it, and I still say jail, Rebecca. I don't bring people back, Yaros. Bull.
Okay, so again, let's look at this dream from the perspective this is Xaden. Enlighten me. The Sage says, such emotion, it will fade in time. Yikes.
I know.
So are we gathering now that Venin don't feel emotion? Okay. Hate that.
Yeah. Which I honestly, though, fully disagree, because I'm like, they have a lot of hate. That's an emotion. I just think
true.
it's
They're definitely not indifferent.
Yeah, because that's my thing. If they had zero emotion, they would just be robots. They have lots of feelings. It's just evil ones.
Yeah, maybe he's saying such emotion of like desperation to like get out of this grip, find Violet, that kind of thing. It'll fade in time because you won't be in love anymore because we don't have it.
No, I
don't know.
That 100% is what he's talking about.
Yeah. Then he says, I'll allow you to help her this time. And he says this after Andarna screamed. So Violet's like, oh, he means I'll allow you to help Andarna. Mm-hmm. But then he says, just submit, come to me. But Violet thinks it's Andarna because she's her dragon. However, if we POV to Xaden, like I said, could this be Sigale and not Andarna? Ooh. Is that the her that he's referring to?
Yes.
And we see the sage pull out a sword with emeralds on the top of the hilt. Where have we seen this before?
The Sword of Tyrandor.
That's right. Yes, on Deverelli. It's the Sword of Tyrandor. More evidence that this is Xaden's dream. Silver hair blows at the edge of Violet's vision, and I can only assume that means Theophany is also there, which points to this is a real situation. This isn't fake dream. And then Violet wakes up as the sword is being rushed towards her and realizes, oh, it was just a dream. Xaden is sleeping. She realizes this through the bond, and then she chooses this time to open the package that Justinia gave her. And for me, did you have more to say on the dream first before we move on?
Not particularly. I think if I'm being so honest with everyone, I was getting a little confused while reading it because on one hand, I knew we were still in Violet's POV, and I recognize that I'm pretty sure it's Xaden's dream, so she's somehow in the dream. Like, I get all of that, but I was having a hard time reconciling, like, oh, okay, the silver hair, but I'm like, oh, how her hair, but I'm like, but if it's in the vision, Theophany would have had to been really close to him. If it's Xaden's eyes and not her eyes, so it's not her own hair. I was having a hard time with all of that when then she woke up. So I didn't really think too much of it afterwards. Yeah, because I was like, ugh, this hurts. Thinking about
it. At this point, my brain also hurts. Okay, so the package that Justinia gave her. Yeah. Violet is just now getting around to opening it, and to me, this is so incredibly unrelatable. The second I get a package from someone I don't know, like if I get a package and I don't know it's coming to me, it's not something I ordered, it's a gift. Yeah. It's toast. I'm ripping it open on site. There's no way I'd be like, I'll hold on to this for later.
I'm going to go so far as to say the second I get something I ordered myself on Amazon, I open it. It's like, I know exactly what it is, but I need to see it. So
I gotta lay eyes on it. Yeah.
Even more so, something that I wasn't expecting from an unknown sender. Yeah, you're coming home with me. We're opening that.
You're coming home with me.
Home with me.
Violet realizes it's a robe made of the fabric that she liked in Deverelli, and it's from Xaden. Gentlemen, take notes. The note says, "For the nights I can't sleep next to you." Aw.
That's so sweet.
That's so sweet.
I know.
The next day, everyone is out in the sun, getting ready to attempt battle mounts. Violet sees Xaden, and it's clear he was not sleeping well. So student after student tries the battle mount, and some make it up, and some break their legs. And it's called balance, if you ask me.
I like, this was the scene where they're doing the, like, tricky new move, right? Yeah. I like how it was specifically said, they're like, you be careful because we only have one mender, and like blah blah blah, all this stuff, and then like a page later it's like we have 3 broken arms, 2 twisted ankle, like all this. So I'm like, okay, so no one was being careful actually.
No, it was a hot mess. Yeah. Violet asks Andarna if she wants to join this practice, and she is still depressy and says no, and I was heartbroken.
Depressy.
When it's Violet and Taryn's turn, Taryn does this sweet little maneuver, and you guys just had to read it. It's very descriptive. And they succeed the mount. Aric's turn. He does swimmingly, but then instead of hitting the target at the end, he throws his axe at Xaden and Kaori. And this, at first, I was like, why did you do that?
I
know.
But
then upon reading it, everyone was like, ooh, I guess you won. Cool move. And I was like, that's just like a fun little thing, like a showy thing. And
it's because he doesn't have a signet.
I know. Oh, that's true, huh? But then, like, just throw it at the target. Why are you throwing it at Xaden and Kaori?
Well, no, I had to read it a couple of times. The target moves. My understanding. And I think the target was near them.
Oh.
Unless I'm misremembering how I read this, but I had to read it a couple of times, that specific part a couple of times too, because I also was like, whoa. I thought we were all in the quest squad together. Like, what is happening?
Wait.
Okay, I know Kaori wasn't there, but like, why are you trying to kill Xaden?
We just went out of town together. Why are you mean?
We just went on a trip. I thought we were friends. And I'm pretty sure the target was just... It's either that the target was near them or he was doing it to be showy.
He was totally doing it to be showy. Because I think it was Riddick who's like, I think he just won the challenge. But you know what this gave to me? It gave Katniss Everdeen during like that scoring portion with the game maker. She like shoots the arrow in the pig's mouth. That like level of just gotcha. And I don't know how I felt about it.
To be fair, I was going to say, to be fair, it really kind of felt like it came out of nowhere from Arik, because I'm like, no one here is doubting him. No one here thinks he doesn't deserve it. Like, so where is this coming from? Like, I don't understand why he felt the need to be showy.
I don't know. It just was like a fun showboaty little thing for everybody. And they were all impressed, so good on them. I cringed a little bit, but that's just the me. Afterwards, Violet gives Xaden a birthday present, and mind you, at this point, we found out just a couple pages before that this current day for them was March 31st. So March 31st is Xaden's official birthday, and we drop an episode on March 31st. So I feel like we got to do something fun.
Happy birthday, Xaden. Yes, we sure do.
Maybe chocolate cake. Ooh, maybe too soon.
No, not too soon. Ours won't be poisoned.
There we go. So Violet gives Xaden a black metal wrist cuff, and it's onyx. And I felt like this is very symbolic and huge considering the name of this book. And
obviously.
Also, it just seems like something that's going to save him in the long run. I don't know how or why, but for now it's just a cuff.
I could totally see it being something where, again, another answer before this problem even arises that Rebecca likes to do with us, where like Violet had some epiphany that we don't even know about yet, and then come to find out later she was like, oh, I thought I read somewhere, I thought maybe this might help, and I just decided to give it to him to see, and it's like, glad I did it, kind of like probably in like in a book and a half later.
She hurts me, but I can see that. Xaden tells her that he has a goal number of days without channeling to mind. Xaden tells her that he has a gold number of days without channeling in mind to show that he's stable, but is being coy about what the number is. That annoyed me. How about you?
As it did Violet. She literally kept saying, well, what's the number? Well, what's the number? Xaden, what's the number? Okay, what's the number? And he's just being like, there's a number. Haha. I still haven't channeled. Like, it's just like, okay, yeah, great. And then he changed the subject. She's like, cool. So what's the number?
I know. Share the information. This isn't, I was going to say, this isn't life and death.
Flame.
It is. It is giving Iron Flame. Maybe that's why I'm frustrated. Yep. So next thing we know, Felix is walking up. Felix from Orisha. Felix, Violet's trainer, Felix. And he delivers the news that 2 wyvern came in through the wards in Orisha. Yeesh. Because that means that the wards are weakening. They estimate to have less than a month left.
Oh, jeez, that's so soon.
I know. It's so,
it
like,
went from
scary.
being, like, maybe 6 months to, like, oh, probably less than that to... Or no, it went from people thinking they had a year to Brennan being like, bet it's less than 6 months. And then to being like, oh, maybe even less than that. Now it's like, we got 30 days max. Like, oh my gosh.
It's intense. I would be peeing my pants. I'd be so nervous.
I know there's been like a couple months so far throughout just even what we've read in this book, but still.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, chapter 46, Violet is training hardcore. Dark Wielders are heading towards Dreyfus, and Xaden has been called back to Tyrrendor. It has been 10 days since he left, and Indarna is still not around. The gang is chit-chatting it up about leaving for Orisha when all of a sudden they hear a man yelling. Arik stops for a second before the door, and Lynx says, "What are you And then he gets cut off. Arik throws his arm across Lynx's chest and drags him back. And I specifically annotated this portion of my book with a little question mark. Because what's all this, isn't it? What do you think?
I did not think twice about it. I really just kind of chalked it up to they heard noises. He has good reflexes, and he stopped him.
I think that's how she wanted us to, but I put a big old question mark there because I was like, this seems fishy to me. This seems really specific to me. Okay. The Duke of Chaldeer flies through the door and lands on his booty. Llewellyn follows him out, angry as all get out. Oh, thank you. I can never read that name, I'll tell you. Also, Grant is reading Fourth Wing for the first time, and every single time Rhiannon's name comes up, he's like, how do you say it? Ronan? It's insane.
I thought you were going to say he says Rihanna, and I was going to say I hate that so much.
He did that too a couple times. No, he can't get Rhiannon. I can't get Llewellyn. We're meant for each other.
Llewellyn. It's fine.
There it is. So Llewellyn follows him out, angry as all get out, and he comes after him. After Llewellyn comes Xaden. Since when is he home? His eyes are bright amber, but not red. So I was personally hopeful.
Okay. Also, we need to talk about I'm backtracking a little bit here.
Yeah, please.
You made a comment that Xaden got called back to Tyrrendor and he was gone for 10 days. How was that just casually mentioned without mentioning anything about Sigale and Taryn being separated? I mean, they couldn't go more than just a yes, they were forced to go like a week when he was stationed because like they'd take turns flying out. That's a long time for it to not even, I'm not saying they couldn't do it, but it's a long time for it to just even not be mentioned that there was a strain on their bond and that the two of them were not itching. And I think a lot of that has to do with how weird Sigale has been this whole book. I mean, she's been acting obviously distant and cold towards Xaden, but she's been acting like that towards Taryn too, based on the impression. We have not gotten anything from her in this book. And based on a couple comments that Taryn has made, he's not getting much from her either. So I think it's just one of those things where I initially kind of took it for face value, but now that we're talking about it again, I'm like, that was a long time for it to not even mention. And I hope that doesn't mean that something is happening with her and with Xaden. And I mean, I know we're getting like hope that his eyes aren't red. Like, yeah, they're amber, but they're not red. Like he's doing well. But actually he's not, because the mating bond between Sigale and Taryn is really strained. I hope that that's not like what is foreshadowing here.
That is a great call out because I read right past that and didn't even think about it. Though, I don't know. I think this theory came after Iron Flame, and I do not remember. I'm sure it's not been confirmed if you're asking this, and I'm also asking this, so I'm sure we didn't read it in a book. But somebody had talked about the fact that dragons can actually stay apart. Like, mated dragons can stay apart from each other a lot longer than what they initially let on. And the fact that Xaden or Sigale and Taryn kept going, like, we have to be together, is because they were doing their riders a favor by bringing them together more than they were doing themselves that
interesting.
Favor. Well, but I can't remember where that was told.
Well,
where I saw that.
I think it was maybe that is alluded to the fact, because I want to say I can't remember if it was in this book or I think it was earlier in this book. So this wouldn't have, if that was mentioned before this book even came out, then it wouldn't have anything to do with it. But we know that there is only one other mated dragon pair, and they had been mated a lot longer than Taryn and Sigale, and they said that they can go a lot longer because their bond is older and more established. And so I'm wondering if maybe that's where that theory came from.
Could be.
But I don't know. I think that because that was mentioned, I actually would argue that that is proof that they weren't just doing it for the writers and it really was for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, only time will tell, and hopefully in this book. Halden is the one who comes out next after Xaden. Surprise, surprise. And it is revealed that the fight is about Xaden moving to have Tyrrendor take in civilians. And Halden, of course, being the evil little garbage boy that he is against it. But Xaden does not care. He doesn't even care. Do you know what that's from?
No.
Oh, it's Nellie in The Office. It's like, I love that quote.
Oh, yeah. That's a little too niche for me to get, but
it's a deep cut one.
Yep.
So Halden then threatens to bring his troops into Tyrrendor, and I want to slap him first and foremost, because he's like, if you bring civilians in, I will bring war against you. As if there's not anything else going on right now.
Yeah.
You really, that's your best use of resources? You're kidding me. This boy needs to get punched. Halden asks Cam/Arik's thoughts, and Arik says, Orishan, remember? Did we know this?
Well, so I think he's part of the Orishan group. Like, I say Orisha, you say Orisha, and you're making me say it different. No, he's part of those writers. So I think they all identify themselves as Orishan, and that's how kind of I took it.
As in the ones that like left the school. Okay.
The revolution ones.
I don't know why I took that as I'm Orishan.
No, I
like,
took it as like he's saying like that's my home. Like I don't want anything to do with leadership here. I left, remember?
Yeah.
Like I left to protect them. So not
I did
like
look it up on the wiki
blood,
to see
but...
like are they half brothers? And I think they did have different moms, but it wasn't confirmed if his mom was from Eurasia or not. But something to keep in mind, I suppose. I don't know how that might play later. This pushes me to the juiciest theory on this episode. So I'm so excited. Ready. It's from our favorite girl, L.A.M.E Ego, on Reddit. And it has to do with the fable of the three brothers. Do you remember how we were like, that is Violet, Mira, and Brennan for sure? She thinks it might not be. She thinks it might be Halden, Arik, and their brother Alec. And so let's recant the fable first. An ancient kingdom that spanned from ocean to ocean, and a great war among three brothers who fought to control the magic in this mystical land. One brother bonded to a griffin, one to a dragon, and when the third grew jealous, he drew directly from the source, losing his soul in waging war on the other two. The three brothers fable could be foreshadowing for King Tari's three sons, Alec, Halden, and Arik. Obviously, Arik has already bonded a dragon, so it's unlikely but not impossible at this point for Halden to bond a griffin. I don't love that idea, but it could still be a thing. There's 2 books and Halden is unbonded thus far. And Alec, described by Xaden himself as a craven murderous prick. Could he have been Venin before Xaden quote-unquote killed him, therefore not actually being truly dead, as Rebecca loves to do to us so clearly?
Oh, interesting. I was waiting for you to explain. This whole time, I'm like, I'm just going to bite my tongue because obviously there's an answer, but I'm like, how could that be if he's a dead? But that would be interesting because I forgot that that's how Xaden described him. I was thinking that it would have to be, obviously, Arik is bonded to the dragon, and I was like, somehow we're gonna learn that Alec isn't actually dead and he bonded to Griffin because Halden is jealous and we know that he's gonna be the one that would be like, that's how I'm sitting here thinking. But I forgot that that's how he was described, which is crazy to think that the other brother was worse than Halden. I mean, Halden is not bad, don't get me wrong. He is like a selfish little boy who just doesn't understand how the world works. He's not actually like evil. I truly don't think.
He's just
unlearned.
He's just young and he has no life skills.
I really think that he just truly does not live in the same reality that everyone else lives in. Like I don't think that he is inherently evil. And so it's interesting to think though that the other brother would have been worse, because I don't think Arik has talked about him too much, right?
And I think it's because he knows exactly who he was and what he was. So he's not like, I'm holding this against you, but rather like, maybe he's out there.
I mean, when they kind of learn what's going on and Violet kind of talks to him about it, he did say, I'm here, aren't I? Like he knew.
Yeah. He knew of the Venin.
So
how did he know of
true.
The Venin? Is it because his brother was already turned Venin?
Well, or the obvious answer is that his dad's the king and the king knows what's going on. But is it actually because his brother turned and he didn't like ooh,
and also
juicy.
Interesting that Halden got paired with griffin riders to be carried in this basket because maybe that sparks something in him of like, I don't want to be in the basket, I want to be on top of the griffin and I would like to ride, you know?
Interesting. Yeah.
Food for thought.
It's crazy to me. It is crazy to me that the farthest fetched thought of this theory is Halden bonding
being
a
on the
griffin,
Yes.
not the dead brother being Venom. Like, that's crazy to me.
Amen. So the only thing that throws me off a little bit from this theory is that the book says, and this is as per the fables, the third brother was vanquished, the Venom brother. But to do so, the third brother vanquished the Venom brother, which would be Auric vanquishing Alec in the end of the final battle, right? But to do so, he commanded the sky to surrender its greatest power. Now, this seems like a Violet and only Violet situation. You know what I'm saying? However,
unless Violet, because they've referred to her as being a weapon multiple times,
right?
So unless Auric commanded Violet,
that's exactly where I was going. I said in some future battle, could he work with Violet and in doing so command exactly like when to strike to take down Alec?
Yeah.
So
I do agree that feels more like a Violet prophecy, but it could be twisted that way to make it work for the three brothers. That's
right.
Food for thought. That is a lot. That's juicy food. That's for sure.
Ew, want to know a restaurant we have out here? It's called Juicy Seafood. And I think that adjective should not be paired with seafood, personally.
Or in a restaurant title ever again. Or restaurant name, not title.
I know. So back to the story.
I love how you live in a landlocked state with this restaurant called Juicy Seafood.
Please. I know. Auric defends Xaden's choice to let the civilians in, and Xaden and Violet start talking about it when all of a sudden, strange shadows start to form behind Violet. And guess who finally manifested their signet? It's not Auric.
Not Auric.
Because I thought that's who it was. It is Lynx, crewman number 6 that we basically said, well, he's gonna die 5 episodes ago. We're like, he has no chance. He's now the most powerful. Plot twist.
Slap me and silly, and what does this say? Slap me something and call me Sally. Whatever. It doesn't matter. This is where I publicly say egg on my face, because I not only was with you, was like, oh yeah, no shot. I specifically said this boy is gonna die from imploding, from not manifesting.
Oh,
and
yes, we did say that.
And so here I am. Here, Rebecca humbling me publicly again. I was so wrong about that. I stand by the fact that I really felt like that's what it was foreshadowing. But now I'm really concerned for Auric, because it was just the two of them. And now, not only did Lynx manifest, but he manifested freaking Xaden's signet.
I know.
And then,
I have chills.
a powerful one. And then now here Auric is still signetless, as far as we know.
As far as we know. Everyone is confused because Xaden is their generation's shadow wielder, and Lynx just did this like incredibly public. Everybody was around him when he started wielding these. Rhiannon went up and was like, calm down, it's okay. But if you know, magic needs balance. Now, this concept of balance has become the topic of discussion around town. We know now that every signet likely has a Venom counterpart. Obviously, we're seeing Theophany with the lightning. We're seeing Violet. Now we're seeing Xaden, who is a Venom, and somebody just channeled or manifested the shadow signet. Yeah. So it's clear that this magic needs a balance, if not a fairly immediate balance. So let's keep that locked away for later, because I have a lot to add on that. Xaden is devastated, and Violet poses some excellent questions with demands for him to fight. She says, because he's like, I'm done. I'm cooked. I'm toast. I'm done. And she's like, well, what happens to Taryn and Sigale if you give in? And also keep this very specific question locked away, because I feel like this is a huge Easter egg question. Because I just feel like what you said, there's no chance Xaden doesn't go ASIM by the end. What happens to Taryn and Sigale? I feel like that's kind of an ask, but we really need to hone in on where does their bond go? Does their bond survive the turning? Does our bond survive you turning? Am I expected to turn with you? Is that the only way to keep our dragons alive if you give up? she asks all of this, and he leaves
And here
anyways.
she is, finally asking questions.
Finally, and the right ones.
Our girl.
Our girl. And she leaves anyways, completely defeated. And for once in this whole book, I finally felt also defeated. I was like, yeah, they're not going to be together. This is going to be a tragedy. This is not a love story.
Ugh. I am shook that this was the first time you felt defeated in this book. I think I felt like that as soon as the Irids were like, yeah, peace out, we're not helping you. Because I was just like, there's I don't, obviously there's going to be an answer, and maybe they change their mind and show up at the end, and I don't know, but I'm like, we've waited 2.5 books to get to this point, and this was our only shot, and that just didn't happen. So I'm like, I have no idea how this is how they're supposed to get the wards up in Erasure now. Like, I genuinely, and potentially kill Venin. It's gone. I don't know. That is my only hope. Just flew away.
I just was like, I don't know, maybe my head's in the clouds, but I'm just kind of like, they wouldn't kill Lynx just to bring Xaden back on this side. And absolutely, Rebecca would kill Lynx to bring Xaden back on the side if the story plays into it. But in my mind, I'm like, no, there's not a great reason to kill him. Therefore, Xaden could be the shadow wielder that's not Venin, so he could be cured. And magic has to have a balance, so there can't be 2 shadow wielders on the good side of the line. So I do think he might die. Like, I think he might end up purely Venin, and then I was panicking. It was a mess. But Llewellyn is then walking up, and he's just like, lover's quarrel, huh? And Violet's like, okay, sure. And basically just thinks to herself, like, I will defend Tyrandor as Xaden asked me to, but I'm not going to do it at the expense of giving up Xaden. Good on her. She's fighting for the both of them now, and I was crushed. Chapter 47. Sawyer's suiting up. He has been talking to Jacinia, and he has enough mojo back to get back up on that dragon. He needs Violet's help in case something goes wrong as he tries to mount, how do you say this? Slisiag? Sleeg. Thank you. I knew it was something. He jerry-rigged a contraption that I can only assume is a steel-toed boot with a small knife that comes out of the front. Is that how you also pictured this?
Exactly. Yes, that is exactly what I pictured.
It was so much like more ornate and beautiful in the description, but I'm like, a boot with a knife. That sounds right.
Yeah, I will say, though, the fact that I pictured the same thing as you, I would not take much stock in knowing that necessarily means it's correct, because I am infamous for just assuming what I want and running with it. But that is exactly how I understood what she was writing.
Taryn and Darna are there to watch as well, and Violet asks Taryn if he's ever felt dishonored by the accommodations that he has to make for her. She pries even further by asking if he ever had to lower himself for Naelin, and Taryn snaps, saying, "We do not speak of the one who came before," with agonizing pain flooding the bond. This screams he turned Venin to me. Sorry, I'm not getting off that train.
No, I'm not either. And I again, we were just talking in the beginning of this episode about how she's not asking questions. Here she is, finally asking some questions.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I know that, like, dragons are not to be trifled with, but if it were me, I'd be like, I know you love me deep down, so please love me enough for me to ask, why can't we talk about this? I think I need more answers than you're giving me.
Yeah, I think it's more than... It's I think the reason she doesn't push is because it's beyond him just being like, we don't talk about it. It was exactly like you read, like, the flood of pain and agony that she felt like come over him. I think she wants answers, but not more than not badly enough for her to know what it's going to put him through. Yeah.
But darn it, if this doesn't become something that was like...
to a point. Right. We're going to have to get to a point where it's his agony is secondary to what's going on.
Exactly what I'm saying. If we get to, like, book 4 or 5 and it comes out that, like, oh yeah, Naelin became Venin, and not only is he Venin, he leads all of them, and also, like, X, Y, and Z could get, like, Taryn sat on this information, I'll be mad for the first time at Taryn in my life. I go on the record to say
I think I'm going to agree with you on that one. If he's going to let all of this happen before it's like, fine, I'll tell you.
Fine, like, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
After some jimmying, Sawyer is up on Sleeg, and it's a joyous moment for all, myself included.
Yep.
The squad comes out in time to see Sawyer up there, and everyone is ecstatic. Riddick goes into a hugging spree, which is sweet on one hand, but so suspicious to me. And
Why?
so...
Ellie, you are turning into me. A hug?
No.
A hug to his friends?
Because why? I know that we have to have some like just fun story in here, but why would he hug everybody? Why does he need to put hands on people? And so I took the liberty of
Ellie.
writing everybody that he touched, just in case this comes back around. He hugged Marin, Kat, Dane, Violet, and Rhiannon. Everyone else said, no, thank you. If something happens to those people, mark my words, I will do a standalone episode just being like, told ya. 10-second L.A.M.E Book Club podcast episode. You're going to see it Monday afternoon. Told ya. That's it.
Ellie just absolutely just, what is it? Bragging.
Yeah.
I was right. I'm the winner. See my prize. You're the loser who sits and cries.
This will be my RX showboat moment.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So the gang flies to Orisha after that exciting situation. Upon landing, Kiori tries to study Andarna, and Andarna snaps at him and then flies away. Violet puts him in his place, and rightfully so. I did not like Kiori for this. He's been trying to study Andarna, and without like asking, it feels weird.
Yeah.
Feels
like,
icky.
I get it. I understand wanting to know more, and I also understand that he doesn't know what they all went through. Like, I get, like, him, I'm not blaming him for, like, her emotional, like, state or anything, but it is, you'd think that the professor who knows the most about dragons would also understand that dragons don't want to be messed with without permission. Like,
right.
It feels so weird to me, like, that he keeps pushing.
It does. And I get it. You know, she's an Irid. They don't know much about them. And he is his job to like study dragons. But maybe get in with Violet a little bit more. Hey, how can I help you? Is there a chance that she'd let me study her on the weekends?
Why can't he talk to his dragon? Like,
true.
And I'm not... And, like, his dragon could talk to Andarna a little bit. I don't know. I'm just like, let's think out the side of the box here, Kiori.
There's more relationship to be had than the sneak attacks.
Yeah.
So everyone heads to their rooms, and Violet notices when she makes it to hers and Xaden's room that the emerald-hilted blade of Orisha is missing a single stone near the top. Interesting. Where did it go? And does it hold magic properties that somebody needed?
I was just about to say,
yeah.
I hope that it's not imbued.
Yeah. It was very clear that we needed to take note that this dagger was missing a jewel. Yeah. Brennan knocks at the door, and Violet pulls him in only for Brennan to drop the bomb that he's been trying to mend Xaden this whole time. But he can't. And I was like, the secrets this family keeps from each other.
I know, but it was sweet. Like, it wasn't a bad secret. I actually... I am grateful that we didn't know about it until we also knew that he couldn't. And so it wasn't one of those things where we're just, this whole time we're hoping maybe that would work only to get let down again. So, like, I actually kind of appreciated how it was presented to her only once they knew that it wasn't a valuable option anymore. Because then I'm not sitting here being like, well, maybe that will happen. Like,
yeah, you're not wrong. Now Xaden wants to try mending the spot he originally channeled from at Biscayeth. And because that was open-ended, I guess I'm doing exactly what you said we were spared from. I'm hoping that that's going to work. Something about that not being done immediately was like, yeah, that could work. That could totally work.
It could. So, I'm not going to say it won't. I'm not hopeful, but it could.
I don't know. It's something. If the Irids aren't a cure, it's something for me to hold on to. It's clear that Xaden doesn't want to give up at this point, and I really liked that because Violet was left on, he's done. He's
I was just about to
dead
say,
inside.
Yeah,
and now he's trying.
Has essentially given up hope, or so we thought. So it's nice to see that he hasn't fully.
Yeah, love that. Chapter 48, everyone. This is the last chapter of the day. Violet and friends are working on taking existing dormant runes and turning them on by tempering more magic into them. And Violet is absolutely terrible at it, but she's like, doesn't matter. I'll get it one day, maybe not today. But, Melissa, speaking of runes, I have saved my best theory for last.
Oh, and I think you said the other one was the juiciest.
That's the juiciest, but this is the best.
That was the juicy seafood of the theories. That's the actual real ocean seafood theories.
Main coastal seafood of theories. Okay.
Main lobster roll of the theories.
Main lobster roll of theories. It surrounds the quote from chapter 19, and this kind of popped into my head because of the runes. This is when the Sucky Squad, the original one that was going with Violet to find the Irids, and they like assigned them to her, the Sucky one.
Yeah.
They're flying to Anka for the citrine, and they're passing land that the venin had drained. But Violet says, I'm struck with the oddest urge to try and pluck strands from the very sky and weave runes. Do you remember that that's not how you weave runes? Violet?
Do you remember that that's actually not at all how... No, that to me, that reminded me of what they did in the beginning of this book when they altered the ward stone.
Okay.
Because it was the way it was explained, at least how I understood it, was that there are different threads of magic and you just have to find the right thread to turn off so that the flyers would be able to manifest, or what was, manifest or whatever, have power. So that's kind of how I thought of it. No, that's not how you create a rune, but maybe like mentally, I don't know.
Well, I will say in this chapter, it describes like how they make runes is by taking pieces of their dragon's power and like tweaking it into a way that can like fit into this. I'm assuming a rock, and then
I always picture rocks. So,
but they literally say like exactly what you said, like a strain of magic. Like they take a thread of it is what they say, and then like tweak it and make it work. But why is Violet saying, I'm struck with the urge to pluck strands from the sky? And then she says, it feels like there's more power out here than usual. And Taryn tells her, well, there's not, since the venin have drained it. So let's focus here on the fact that Violet feels more power and outside of the words and is looking to the sky to grab it. We know from chapter 48 specifically, again, that runes are made from channeling your dragon's magic, or Griffin, or whomever. When else has Violet felt or seemingly had power where it wasn't? On the Isles, at Unbriel. So I am curious if the somewhat dedication to Dune / being touched by the gods has given Violet the ability to channel not just from her dragon, but essentially some type of god power from the sky. And if that power is what's causing her to be able to talk to Andarna and Taryn off the Isles, and channel during the duel on Unbriel, because every single person on that freaking isle was like, was that you? Did you channel the lightning? And she's like, no, there's no magic. Is she able to grab this power from the sky as a gift from the gods, in contrast to the venin who grab power from the ground, meaning she would be an unlimited source of power? And I have more to back this up, but give me your thought first.
Well, okay, my only thought was I like this, except this goes as a 180 from our theory that the gods aren't actually deities, they're just venin.
I know.
So that would, but I think I like this more. Okay.
This connects more for me than the other one. Even though the other one connected, right now, this one connects more. So I have to back off the other one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little bit more to back it up. The Fable of the Barons again. There are constant warnings about the dangers of wielding power from the ground instead of the skies. So we overlooked that because what the heck is that?
We did.
Moreover,
sure did.
Are the Irids channeling from the sky? And here we go with this. Remember when the dragons were hurting in the Isles because there was no magic, and Taryn was like, yeah, it doesn't feel great, but I don't complain. Like you don't complain to Violet. He also makes a specific note that Andarna is just doing fine. He's like, well, she seems good, so they're good. What if the Irids learn to grab magic from the sky as well? And that's the reason that Andarna can burn venin, because the magic, again, contrasts theirs from the ground. But then that begs the question, where are the other dragons getting their magic from? Because if it's not from the sky, will changing their source allow them to also burn venin?
Shut
And
up.
do you remember your dragon v dragon theory for the next books, that you're going to have some kind of like
love
civil
my
war?
dragon v dragon theory. Yes, I
think
do.
that plays into it. I think that maybe history was changed to be like, you have to channel from the, I don't know if it's the ground
Whatever.
or wherever they're channeling from, but that's like, it changed everything.
That's an Empyrean question.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Ooh, this is
thoughts.
fun. Okay. I am fully publicly backing off of the deity venom theory, and this is way more fun. I like this so much more.
Yeah. That's a fun one. Okay,
this was the main
the
lobster roll, everyone.
This was the main lobster roll. Violet is in her room and is reading Takaris's book intently. There's something in here that gets overlooked, but here at the LBCP, we do a double take. Violet says, "My brows rise at the next passage I read, and I go over it once more to be sure that I've caught on to a pattern, and that makes 3. Then she says nothing else about that pattern, but abruptly moves on to listening to the thunder and looking out the window. It's not, she didn't get interrupted. I thought, oh, well, because Xaden came in. No, there's a gap between her saying that and then Xaden knocking. She just straight up just looks out the window and is like, oh, it feels like the lightning's calling to me.
Is that Imogen?
Is this a gap in time that went missing?
Yes.
I've received a DM in response. No, go ahead.
All I was going to say is I distinctly remember when reading this being like, are you kidding me? This is all we got. And it's as if she just didn't like connect the dots and is living life. Like, are you joking?
Yes. Yes. If you're not watching, my eyes are so wide right now. Yes. So I received a DM in response to our conversation last week about Imogen possibly removing Violet's memory. And this was another spot where readers are questioning if memories were erased, because it seems pretty abrupt that Violet was recognizing a pattern and then just moving on. Suspicious, a little weird.
Coincidence? I think not.
Xaden then knocks on the door and tells her it's been 73 days since he's channeled. His magic number is 76. Why was that so hard to tell us? I cannot.
He probably wanted to wait until he got a little closer to see if it was realistic.
Probably. That's fair. That's so equitable. That number is twice the number of Jack's longest stretch, so it makes sense that that would show that he is a little bit more stable. He and Violet are about to get it on, but Xaden stops and insists that she follows his rules. She cannot touch him, and he arms her to the 9s before they go at it. And then they go at it. And that's where we leave off today. So, next week, guys, chapters 49 through 54. Drop your theories. We've gotten a ton of theories this week that will probably be entirely included in next week's episode. So it'll be theory heavy. But yeah,
this was awesome. Oh man, I have to get reading. I have to get going before next week.
Yes, you do. It just gets better most of these last few pages. Oh, it gets so good.
I know. I'm very excited. You guys, life has been so crazy. I can't even explain. I could. I'm just not going to. Life has been crazy.
You're being coy like Xaden's number. Just not going to say. Yeah. It's okay.
Don't ask me.
Oh, I love it. Well, guys, if you want more episodes, consider Patreon, like and subscribe, follow us on Instagram. We post a ton of shorts talking about more theories, responding to your guys' theories. It's so much fun. And have a great week.
Bye, everyone.